We're on our way to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous private island.
Welcome to WatchMojo, and today we're looking at 10 shocking revelations about Jeffrey Epstein's private island, its inhabitants, and its history that have been unveiled thanks to the Epstein Files. We'll be including revelations from both the older releases and the newest 2026 batch.
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
The traveling disguise.
There was a time I took Jeffrey Epstein's party of 4 out here to the island, and it's basically a woman about his age and a couple of girls that looked like they were 13, 14, maybe 15 years old, sisters.
Ever wonder how Epstein got the girls to the island in the first place? We'll wonder no more. Flight logs reveal that the young victims were frequently listed as things like massage therapists and executive assistants to bypass suspicion when entering the Virgin Islands. Authorities accepted the ruse, and it allowed Epstein to transport victims across borders with a veneer of professional legitimacy.
Epstein Island, a place that this boat captain would rather forget.
The longer I think about it, the more I realize I probably helped him commit a crime.
This detail is particularly chilling because it highlights the business-like operation behind the abuse. It wasn't hidden in the shadows like some kind of movie. It was hidden in plain sight using bureaucratic loopholes. By designating victims as employees, Epstein stripped them of their agency before they even landed, ensuring that customs officials saw nothing more than a billionaire and his support staff arriving for work.
It dawned on me, if those aren't his kids, maybe those were victims.
The island as a recruitment reward.
Well, we definitely received substantial evidence that he was involved in trafficking young women and children to the Virgin Islands.
Understanding the psychology of the island is key to understanding the abuse. The files illustrate a twisted hierarchy where Little St. James was positioned as the ultimate reward. Victims described being recruited in locations like Palm Beach, with a trip to the island framed as a glamorous vacation or modeling opportunity.
Let me make something very clear. Jeffrey Epstein was very good at protecting himself and being secret. The secrecy he was very good at that.
However, once they arrived, the reality shifted drastically. Reports and depositions corroborate that passports were often confiscated upon arrival, turning the paradise into a prison. It's a horrifying revelation that exposes the predatory grooming funnel used to trap innocent women. The island was essentially the final stage of an elaborate trap, and its isolation, combined with the removal of travel documents, meant that physical escape was nearly impossible.
These young girls and women were subject to sexual assault, sexual exploitation, through coercion, false imprisonment, where the passports at some points were taken away.
High-tech surveillance.
From the air, opulence is on display. 2 pools, perfectly manicured beaches lined with palm trees, surrounded by turquoise waters.
One of the most sinister confirmations supports the long-held theory that the island was a honey trap. Evidence, photos, and documents describe the island as being rigged with enterprise-grade ubiquity surveillance equipment. Cameras were discovered in locations that far exceeded standard security requirements, along with computer server racks capable of storing massive amounts of footage.
When you say you saw young girls, were they under 18, do you think?
I have no way of knowing that, truly, but they appeared to be young to me.
What does this mean? Well, it suggests that the island was built to record powerful men in compromising acts for blackmail. It changes our understanding of Little St. James from a mere hideaway into a weaponized facility, implying that Epstein's operation was about leverage just as much as it was about abuse.
When you first met Jeffrey Epstein, what were your impressions of him?
Real smart guy. Unbelievably focused.
Marvin Minsky at the complex. The files didn't just implicate Hollywood stars or politicians, they reached into the highest levels of academia. A deposition by Virginia Giuffre alleges that Ghislaine Maxwell directed her to have sexual relations with Marvin Minsky, described as, quote, the father of artificial intelligence. Giuffre stated that this abuse occurred specifically, quote, at the island complex. Minsky was once a revered figure in science, not a socialite known for partying. But placing him on the island in a shocking abuse scenario shatters the image of the intellectual elite being removed from Epstein's crimes. It demonstrates that the depraved acts on Little St. James extended to the most respected corners of society, even implicating a man whose work has defined the very future of technology. Elon Musk wished to visit the island.
The former president has denied ever having visited the island. So has Elon Musk, yet the files contain at least 2 emails discussing just that.
The tech mogul has frequently insisted that he flatly rejected any offers to visit Jeffrey Epstein's private island. Yet recently released email correspondence dating back to 2012 reveals a stark contradiction to these claims. In these messages, Musk appears quite friendly, explicitly inquiring about the best time to visit the island.
In one from the 24th of November 2012, Epstein writes, "How many people will you be for the heli to island?" Musk responded the next day that it would probably just be him and his then wife, adding, quote, "What day/night will be the wildest party on our island?"
Although scheduling conflicts might have ultimately stopped the journey from occurring, that doesn't really matter. It's the clear willingness to go that's significant. It completely undermines Musk's self-proclaimed moral high ground and demonstrates that privately, their dynamic was cordial and collaborative. Ultimately, being exposed for misleading the public regarding one's closeness to a notorious sex trafficking operation inflicts severe damage to his reputation.
A year later, Musk wrote Epstein saying, quote, "We'll be in the BVI St. Bart's area over the holidays," BVI's British Virgin Islands. "Is there a good time to visit?" To which Epstein replied, "Always space for you."
Bill Clinton in person.
Giuffre also claimed she recalled at least 2 occasions where former President Bill Clinton visited Epstein's island and dined with young women.
The unsealed documents have reignited the explosive political dispute surrounding the former president. While Bill Clinton has vehemently denied visiting Little St. James, Virginia Giuffre's deposition places him there directly. Documents unsealed in January 2024 reference Giuffre's claim that she saw Bill Clinton on the island and that he was there with, quote, 2 young girls from New York.
Has difficulty remembering exactly when it was and exactly what age she was at the time, but says that Bill Clinton would have been aware of what was going on, though did not specifically witness it.
Importantly, she did not accuse him of abusing her or engaging in any kind of sexual acts on the island. Another key witness, Johanna Schoberg, also testified that Epstein once told her, quote, "Clinton likes them young." Perhaps we'll learn more later this month when Clinton finally testifies.
And out of this, Bill and Hillary Clinton have agreed to testify in the House Oversight Committee's investigation into Jeffrey Epstein.
Stephen Hawking's island orgy.
Look, Bill's here. Look who's here. Stephen Hawking's here. Look, this guy's here. Look at the Nobel laureates here. Look at all these brilliant, esteemed scientists.
In one of the most bizarre turns in the documents, a 2015 email between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell surfaced regarding none other than Stephen Hawking. Epstein instructed Maxwell to offer a cash reward to anyone who could, quote, prove false the allegation that the famous physicist participated in an underage orgy in the Virgin Islands. The sheer absurdity of connecting the world's most brilliant scientific mind to a wild island orgy is just mind-boggling. The revelation shocked the world not just for the accusation, but for Epstein's desperate need to debunk it. It shows how deep the rumors ran and how concerned Epstein was with public perception. And yes, the image of Hawking on the island remains one of the most surreal visuals conjured by the release of these files.
Who's on the actual list? You know, there's some pretty fascinating people.
Co-conspirator Leslie Wexner.
Giuffre did name other names as well. She said she was trafficked, made to have sex with former Victoria's Secret CEO Lex Wexner more than 5 times.
For years, billionaire retail mogul Leslie Wexner was portrayed merely as a client, but the 2026 files fundamentally shift that narrative. Representative Ro Khanna revealed that unredacted FBI documents explicitly label Wexner as a, quote, co-conspirator of Epstein's rather than just an associate.
Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document?
This distinction is critical. Since Wexner was the primary funding source for Epstein's lifestyle and the development of Little St. James, it implies that the island was built with money the FBI knew was dirty. It shatters the lone wolf theory of Epstein's crimes, indicating that the literal infrastructure of abuse was financed by one of the wealthiest men in America, and that federal authorities were aware of this connection far earlier than they ever admitted.
So on one hand, he's not involved in this issue at all, but on the other hand, he does have very close ties to Jeff Epstein that it will potentially hurt his business a lot.
Torbjørn Jagland's family trip.
Norway is set to launch a probe into its foreign ministry over links to late U.S. sex offender Jeffrey Epstein as the fallout from newly released files continues to ripple across Europe.
If you think the Epstein files are limited to just the U.S., you are sorely mistaken. The recent batch of emails show that Torbjørn Jagland, a former prime minister of Norway, planned a visit to Little St. James with his family in 2014. This occurred years after Epstein's 2008 conviction and registration as a sex offender. For a long time now, we've been hearing that the global elite, quote, cut ties with Epstein after his conviction and prison stint. Well, this trip contradicts that popular narrative. Instead, bringing a spouse and children to a known sex offender's private island signals a terrifying level of normalization. It demonstrates that for certain world leaders, Epstein's crimes were considered a forgettable footnote in history. And it certainly did not stop them from considering his weird sex island a prime jet set. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. The total exposure of Prince Andrew.
From disturbing photos of the former Prince Andrew to his alleged sharing of government documents with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, the fallout from the Epstein Files once again putting the British royal family into turmoil.
So this is pretty much it for Prince Andrew, right? There's just no way he saves face from this. While previous allegations placed him directly at an island orgy, the fresh documents provide damning visual and logistical corroboration. A disturbing, never-before-seen photograph depicts the Duke crouching and smiling over a woman, visually confirming the exact type of grotesque behavior his victims described.
After new images of the former royal were revealed in the latest release of Epstein Files.
Even more telling, emails reveal that Andrew invited Epstein to Buckingham Palace for, quote, privacy after he was convicted of sex crimes, importing the island's culture of impunity directly into the royal household. These revelations prove that Andrew was an active participant who not only visited the island, but maintained intimate ties with a known predator, marking a total collapse of his royal reputation.
Charles, how long have you known about Andrew and Epstein?
What do you make of these stories? Let us know in the comments.